So human relationships can be one of the greatest sources of pleasure and love and joy and nourishment, and also one of the greatest sources of pain and suffering and torment and anger and frustration. So we should ask ourselves when we're entering into relationships, when we find ourselves in relationships, what is our fundamental basis for relating to other people, and what models are we using in relating and sharing energy and information with the people around us. So that's exactly what we're going to talk about and discuss in this video, because it's a really, really important concept that I think needs to be talked about. So here we go. As you can see behind me, we have encroachment versus love. Now by love, I don't necessarily mean in the romantic sense. I mean love as in the sense of properly relating to other people. It doesn't even necessarily have to be people. It could just be the world around you. It could be nature. It could be inanimate objects, whatever it might be, because we're all in relation with everything around us. And as you can see above here, we have the infinity symbol, or really two circles that connect in the middle, or the number 8, which is turned on its side. So within this symbol right here, we can understand the fundamental basis and fundamental supportive ideas for relating to other people in a proper and balanced and healthy way. So as we can see, we have these two separate circles. And over here we have person A, and over here we have person B. But you can see in the middle, there's this little bit of common ground that they're sharing. There's a little bit of openness between each person, and then they're meeting in the middle. We've all heard these terms. Oh, why don't you just meet me halfway? Why can't you just, meet me in the middle? This is what we're talking about here. And we can also see that through these different circles, energy goes in, and then it goes around, and then it comes back out, and then it goes back in, and then it goes back in, and then it comes back out. And we can see that it's this balanced cycle of energy in and energy out, meaning you give energy and it comes back. They give energy and it comes back. And it's this balanced, harmonious thing. Now, this is the sort of ideal state because it's based on rapport, it's based on proper relating, it's based on respect, in respect of each person's intrinsic space. It's based on paying attention to the signs and feelings which are coming through this feedback loop here. Meaning the person sends something, we send a feeling, or they maybe say something, we pick up on a sign, and we feel that, and we acknowledge that, and we give that attention, and we respond to that appropriately. And then also, that's based on naturalness and flow. Because let's say we have a really just preconceived, rigid idea about the relationship and how it should be, but we get a sign that says something else. In order to respond to that appropriately and relate properly, we're going to need to be natural. We're going to need to flow with that and be able to set aside our preconceived little box that we might have. Also, it's based on trust and faith in allowing and freedom. Because we see that we are in actuality and in reality two separate people, person B and person A over the left. So we have trust and faith that the other person is going to do what they need to do to take care of themselves, to develop themselves, to understand appropriately. And we're going to allow them and give them freedom to do that. We're going to basically stay in our intrinsic space, and then they're going to stay in their intrinsic space. And when we want to relate, when we sense an opening, when we feel an opening, when we get a sign or a feeling, we respond with naturalness and flow and respect and proper relating based on the rapport we have and our respect for each person's intrinsic space, and we move forward accordingly. So let's say person A opens up to person B at this level. So now as my marker is dying, there's this level of openness. So person B basically just moves forward to this little space here, and they don't go past that. Because that's not natural, that's not in the flow, that's not respecting their inner space. Whereas some people just don't even pay attention to this at all, and they just will come in and jump into your inner space, and that leads us to encroachment, which again is the opposite of love or proper relating based on all of these intrinsic principles that we just talked about. So what is encroachment all about, and how does it play out, how does it look? Well, first and foremost, it usually doesn't feel good at all. If you've had someone encroach on your space, it's usually met with contempt and distrust. because the person that feels like they have to encroach generally is doing this on the basis of distrust. They don't have trust and faith and respect for your intrinsic space. They probably don't have the rapport, they don't have the respect, they're not paying attention to the signs and feelings, they're not being natural, they're not allowing the freedom, so thus they're just encroaching in your space. And then you feel that and you have contempt for that, you have distrust for that because it doesn't feel good, and they're doing that out of a basic distrust in themselves. And from there, people often do these things because they're presumptive. They have all these presumptions about, well, you relate in this way, or you mean this, or they gave you this, or you gave them that, so they're entitled, they're entitled to this or that, or they presume that they can do this, or they can do that, or they can tell you this, or they can offer you advice, or give you help, or tell you what you should or shouldn't do, when maybe you didn't even ask for it. Maybe it's not even really appropriate in that situation, because you don't have the rapport, you don't have the proper relating, you don't have the respect, it's not natural, it's not in the flow, and there's no real intrinsic harmony going on there. And sometimes we just need to tune in and listen and pay attention and realize that when we're into presumption, we're into entitlement or distrust and contempt or arrogance, we're trying to contrive or orchestrate something or really control and monitor other people in our mind's eye, it's really getting into encroachment. And it's not a good place to be. No one really enjoys having people encroach on their space, but we all will meet people that have no awareness of this idea, and they have no understanding of relating to people in this way, and they will just encroach and throw stuff at you and throw stuff on you when you didn't even ask for it. You don't even want it. It's not even appropriate. It's not even respectful, and it's not even based on any of these real principles that we're talking about. So hopefully from this, we can now see a more harmonious way of relating to people. We can see that we can relate to people based on this idea of the infinity symbol and paying attention to rapport and proper relating and respecting each other's intrinsic space. Paying attention to the signs and the feelings that we notice, being natural, being in the flow, having trust and faith to allow freedom for the other person, and not get into all this presumption, all this entitlement, and all this sort of like distrust and arrogance and contriving and orchestration, which it's not really a good place to be and not really a great way to relate to other people. And when people typically experience that, they don't enjoy it. So just wanted to share this with you. Hopefully it's been helpful, and hopefully it's opened a new sort of way of looking at relating to other people. Something I've learned a couple of years ago and have really enjoyed experimenting with and putting into play, putting into practice, which is the most important thing. So if you have any questions or comments, post them below, and I'll talk to you soon.